Hello and welcome to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys, for another video. And this is a really sad video I'm going to have to do for you today. I was going to take a short break before the last game in Eibar, but I've come back today with some really sad news regarding Ousmane Dembele. I'm sure you've all heard by now. He will be ruled out officially, the club have confirmed, for between 3.5 to 4 months after this injury yesterday that he sustained against Getafe. And it's really disappointing. I'm very shocked because, I mean, if we just look at the injury once again, there was hardly anything to it. You know, he picked it up. It wasn't an aggressive challenge. It was nothing like that. It wasn't really an impact injury. It was just one of those things that happened. He felt here that he couldn't play on. He couldn't play any more parts. And that seemed as sort of good because at least he didn't try and force it. He didn't, you know, aggravate the injury. He then hobbled off. He wasn't taken off on a stretcher. You know, he asked for medical attention and it didn't seem that serious at the time. And certainly after the game, the likes of beIN Sports, they were reporting that he could be out for around 3 to 4 weeks. And at the time we were thinking, that's a bit of a long time. You know, we weren't expecting it to be that bad. Then this morning it came out, Sport and beIN once again, they changed their opinion. They said that he would be out for 2 months. And I think we were all very shocked at that. But then really the worst happened. The club came out, they said Ousmane Dembele has suffered this injury. He will be out confirmed for between 3.5 to 4 months, which is a long time. And I'm just going to read you the official statement from Barcelona. Tests have confirmed that first-team player Ousmane Dembele has ruptured the tendon in his femoral bicep in his left thigh. The player will be operated on by Dr. Sakari Orvara in Finland this week. He's expected to be out between 3.5 to 4 months. And that is so sad. It's unlikely now that he's going to be seen again in a Barcelona shirt until 2018. And it's really disappointing because he's come to Barcelona. He worked so hard to get here. You know, he was driving through the move all summer. He was desperate to join the club that he so likes and loves so much. He got here, he finally got his transfer. He had to wait to make his debut. He's tried to ease himself into it. He wasn't fully fit. And that's just what I can look at. And I don't know whether there's any correlation. I don't know whether we can say, you know, should we have put Dembele in those situations? Should we have played him so often? Or should we have eased him in? I don't know if there's any correlation between those two facts. But I personally do think we have thrown Dembele in at the deep end a little bit. You know, he came on against Espanyol. A few days later then, he started in a massive game against Juventus in which he did look a bit nervous. He did look a bit off the pace. He didn't look 100% ready because there's a very big difference between being fit and being match fit. You know, you can be very fit, you can be up to speed, but it's a very different story getting into the game, having that match sharpness, and it does take a few weeks to get that going. And I just feel like 2 successive starts against Juve and then at the weekend against Getafe, the pitch really wasn't great. That could have contributed to the injury, and it's just so disappointing that a player that we've all looked forward to seeing so much, somebody that definitely needed to grow with the team to adapt and have time and patience, and now he's sort of ruled out for 3 to 4 months, and it's a long time to be out for. He's going to miss some very key games in that time. I'm just going to go through the list of games that he is likely to miss if he does miss that amount of time. Obviously, he'll miss the game at home against Eibar, which is coming up this Tuesday, then away at Girona. He'll miss that game. He'll then miss our second Champions League group stage match away at Sporting Lisbon. That could be a potentially tricky game that he'll miss. We then at home to Las Palmas. He will miss away at Atletico Madrid. That's a big game, a tough game away at their new stadium. He will miss that game. Then our third Champions League group match at home to Olympiacos, home to Malaga. Possibly then the last 16 stage of the Copa del Rey, away at Athletic Club to the new San Mamés, another tough and difficult away game that he'll miss. Then away at Olympiacos in the Champions League group stage, and then away at Leganes. Possibly away against Juventus then, definitely he'll miss that game in November. A difficult away game again in the Champions League, one that could be very decisive. Then again, possibly a Copa del Rey match. Home at Celta, home against Sporting, away against Villarreal, another difficult away game, home against Depor, and finally, one of the worst ones to miss, and the one that I'm very disappointed he won't be involved in by the looks of things, away against Real Madrid in December, the 23rd of December, at the Santiago Bernabeu in El Clasico. But what's really important, what I think is absolutely crucial with this kind of injury, he does not rush back. We are so excited to see Dembele. We really want to see him in a Barcelona shirt. This is a very, very frustrating period now that he's going to be out injured. But the one thing that you don't want to do with these kind of injuries is rush yourself back. He should come back when he is 100% ready to return, and not before that. He shouldn't be rushed. He shouldn't be trying to get back earlier. He shouldn't be trying to sort of skip a few things in his recovery. He needs to be 100% right, because these kind of injuries, especially with the muscles, if you're coming back early, you're risking then aggravating it. You're risking coming back and then being out for a longer period again. We've seen it a few times. I would look at Gareth Bale. He even admitted a few days ago that he came back too soon last season. He rushed himself back to participate in the Clasico, and you'll all remember he had a bad performance. He was taken off with yet another injury in that game, and it was very, very clear that he jumped his recovery and he'd come back too soon. We do not want that to happen with Dembele. He should take his own time. Whatever the medical staff say, he should follow that. He should take the time that he needs, and when he comes back, make sure he's 100% ready, because you don't want to be sprinting around the pitch and having it in the back of your mind that you might not be fully right. You want to come back and be confident that you're over the injury, and then he can move past that. I think at Dembele, he's young enough, you know, he's got this time to miss. He'll have a lot of time to sort of make up for this and make his mark in the Barca shirts. It's a very big setback, but he'll come back stronger, and really all thoughts to Dembele right now. I wish him the very, very best, and in 2018, that's going to be his year. He can do it then. He'll come back in a Barcelona shirt, and we will all be fully behind him. And what I want to look at now is possible replacements for Dembele, of course, because 3.5 months to 4 months, we saw some of the fixtures there. They are some difficult, particularly away games in the league. Atletico, Athletic Club, Real Madrid, of course. There are some very, very difficult games in there that you want to sort of have a plan for. And Valverde now, he's already lost Neymar in the summer, of course. He had to adapt his game plan after losing Neymar. Now he's lost Dembele, a very key cog in our team. He needs to adapt again, and it's definitely going to earn his money, Valverde, because he's got some very, very big decisions coming up with regards to who can step into that Dembele role and who can really thrive. Obviously, the obvious solution would be Gerard Deulofeu, but of course he won't be able to play every game in that role, so we really need to, you know, sort of assess all the options going forward. I think Deulofeu, first and foremost, can definitely come in. He works hard. He's not as decisive as Dembele in the final third. He does need to work on his end product, but he does work very, very hard. He understands the system, he understands the style, and he does sort of keep his width. He is of use in that front three. I think that he can play a part. He can come in and play the games. But I think another thing you want to look at is Rafinha. I really, really hope that Rafinha can get back fit, but there is a potential problem with that. If his knee doesn't improve soon, he too will have to have further surgery, and then we can rule him out again for a few months. But if his knee does improve, he could get back into this team, and he too can play in that right wing role, as we've seen him do in the past, and he could be quite effective there. Another player that you'd look at potentially would be Alex Vidal, another player who can play offensively. He is obviously well renowned as a right back, but he did start his career, and for the majority of his career, particularly at Almeria, he played as a right winger. He's a guy that's very, very pacey. He can get in behind. Like Deulofeu, his end product needs work. He's certainly not polished as a right winger, but he can possibly play that role up against the lesser teams. He could be an option to play in that right wing position. You could possibly look to Paco Alcácer, which would actually change the sort of dimension of our front three, because then you'd have Suarez, you'd have Messi, and then you'd have Alcácer. 2-3 sort of forwards who all want to play more centrally. So then you could possibly give more license to the fullbacks to come forward to affect play, and then you'd have the front three much more narrow. But Alcácer could play in some of the games if he adapts to the role. We've seen him play wide on a few occasions. He hasn't always made the impact that you'd want him to, but he's another player that could possibly fit in that position. Arda Turan has now returned from injury. He will come into the team. We are still paying him big wages. He's still here. So while he's here, we may well use him. He can play in the front three. He can play wide. If we are desperate, we may want to turn to Arda Turan, who in the past has popped up with a few goals. I do think he's much better in the front three as opposed in a midfield position. I think when we play him as a centre midfielder, he can really be exposed. But if we really, really do need to, if it does come down to it, is it possible that he can play in that right wing role? So we do have a few options. We are not exactly exactly overwhelmed with options in our squad right now, but we do have a few players who can adapt to that role, and hopefully in the next few months they can sort of get into that role, ease their way into it, and really try to replace Dembele. It's going to be very difficult because even though it's early days, Dembele has been really good in that right wing role in terms of the way that he plays it. He keeps his width, he's very, very good in terms of he understands that role in the right wing area. He's allowed Messi to play centrally, Suarez off to the left, and it's looked like a really nice combination that was sort of getting along with the flow of it. You know, he was starting to settle in, he was starting to get a bit of confidence, and like I say, it's so sad now that's been interrupted, but I guarantee you he'll come back stronger. He needs to get that recovery going, do his time, make sure that he's 100% right before he comes back, and hopefully in the time that he's out, the likes of Deulofeu, possibly Alex Vidal, maybe Alcácer, maybe even Arda Turan, Rafinha if he can get fit, those guys can come in and possibly look to replace him in the time that he's out injured. So let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Who do you think can come in and replace Dembele? What are your thoughts on the injury? How do you think it sort of happened? Do you think we overworked him, or do you think it's just one of those things? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. I always appreciate your feedback, and I do appreciate your positive feedback yesterday on the Paulinho video. I do really appreciate your support, guys, so thank you very much for that. I'll see you very soon with more videos. I just wanted to give you an update on this sad situation from this morning. Until next time, as always, Vesca El Barça.